Security people in here?
Good afternoon, beloved ones. So, second service, I said that I would be joining Raspberry. Raspberry. And that's one of those you wish you could pull back as you do it. But then again, I thought it's rather appropriate.
It is.
It's an honor to hang out with these guys. Love them to the core. We've walked a journey together. And now we're embarked on a new one called rewirement, the term we've coined. And it's quite a journey. But before we dive into our collective thoughts about this interesting chapter, Raz, you want to pray us in?
I would love to. And by the way, that was an awesome talk today.
Thank you.
Wasn't that great?
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
You know, you've been my minister since I met you,
Oh,
which is about 100 years ago.
yeah.
Something like that. But somebody asked if this was an Amway presentation.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that one. But for now, let's just close our eyes and go within and anchor into that divine presence that we know so well. Those times of pause when we can open up to the divine that is infinite, beyond any current experience. Yeah, that's all it takes. Just moving into that place of stillness, where we open our hearts and our minds and our very being to that infinite source that blesses us with the breath of life in every moment. And so I give thanks for this time together where I get to be here with my colleagues and share what we've learned so far. And there's always more to learn. So I know this day, as we have gathered, come to be together with all of you, that there is a invigoration and inspiration that takes place this afternoon, along with some fun, some humor, maybe some brilliance even. You never know. That could happen when you touch into the infinite. And so I give thanks for this time, knowing that we are all blessed by it. And we just say together in honoring of it, and so it is.
And so it is.
All right, who starts this?
Well, I just wanted to share that I'm going to really give these guys space because I've already done an hour and a half on this previously. But we did get together and actually carve out a roadmap, and maybe you have a handout of some of the topics that we knew were important for us to address, things we collaborated on and really realized we were all engaged in our own unique way. and I would just start by sharing that rewirement, which some people call retirement, is one of the most important times to remain highly conscious and to take care of oneself and to be very intentional about one's life. And I know that's not usually one's thought about it. It's like retirement, I'll just do whatever I darn well please and nothing matters and I'm just going to be. And that's okay for a time. But there comes a time when we need to take care and lean into certain aspects of our life in this phase. Or, as you probably have heard stories of those who retire and then after a while don't know who they are, what they're about, and they wither and leave the planet pretty quickly. And that doesn't have to be, because I believe it's one of the most exciting and opportune times. But as I say, it's something to really lean into and explore. Who am I when I'm not doing the job I used to do? Who am I when I start to strip away some of the roles that I've played? Who am I when I'm not in the arena where I carved out some status? Who am I when I create a different lifestyle than the one I've lived decade after decade? Who am I in this new strata? And that's a deep and piercing question, but it's also a tremendous opportunity too. So with that, which one of you wants to go first? Our first thing is about spiritual development and well-being.
I'll jump in here. to
That's good,
start.
brother.
I won't get a word in edgewise otherwise with these two guys, so I thought I'd go first. But
That is so true.
we got together a while ago and we're talking about this, and the first thing that came to us is our spiritual development and well-being. And one thing that we realized that all three of us had a place that we went nearly every day, just part of our ritual in rewirement, a place that was part of our physical well-being in terms of working out, and in terms of our spiritual well-being, you know, our meditation practice or our spiritual discipline, the things that we're reading, and that was something that we were all tuned into. So I think that one of the things that's important is to find a place that we're comfortable to work out spiritually, and you know, each of us is doing it in our own way, but there are so many opportunities now in the world that we live in. There are so many more options open to us than we're open to our parents in terms of what we can do to take care of ourselves, in terms of you know, yoga, tai chi, weight training, swimming, going to the gym, all these opportunities that we have. And every place that you live, the communities that you're in have these opportunities. We have opportunities at Mile High Church to do yoga and tai chi and meditation and all these things. So I think the first thing I would recommend is to get a place that you go in the morning. You know, part of the thing is, for me, my wife Stephanie is still working, and she's usually leaving at 9 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And I go out at the same time and go to the place where I do yoga and tai chi and stretching, and do that every day. And it has really helped me to get my days going and to bring me into a sense of focus. So as far as point one goes, all three of us are doing that in our own way, and I would just really encourage you to do that as well. Roger got me into a book a while back called Younger Next Year, and it's on our recommended reading list here. It's a short list, but it's all-inclusive. And one of the things that the guy had in there is one of his rules was 45 minutes of aerobics, 6 days a week for the rest of your life. And that has always stuck with me, and to let go of the idea that I'm going to get into shape and to embrace the idea that I'm going to stay in shape. So that's point one for me.
That's great, Barry. Love it. One of the things I wanted to share, it just while we were praying and listening to Dr. Roger today, I thought the number one thing that I have taken into rewirement is this teaching. So blessed that Tina and I started coming to Science Mind centers back in 1987. And Tina went first to check it out for 2 weeks, and she lived through it. So I thought, okay, I'm not much of a church person, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And never left. And so as I've gone through my own experience, it'll be 6 years this July since I officially retired. But I tell you what, it's having this spirituality in your back pocket, and I love that term you used today, was so key. So you're already a leg up on people that aren't familiar with this teaching that makes such an impact in your life, no matter what's up. You know, whether you're working, you're thinking about working, or you don't want to work anymore, whatever it is, having this teaching has been the blessing, really. So, you know, for me, I, of course, had to put things on a note card because that's what I do. I'm an old dog. Woof. And, but it also helps me keep on track. But what I noticed is having not just the daily practice, but having a spiritual community. So it's been very important for me and Tina to keep coming back. You know, we go to as many services as possible while we're in town if we're not traveling. But we've also expanded. We go to Kirtan now, and When it works out, I want to be able to go on some of these spiritual journeys that Reverend Zamira has been taking people on. I just think opening up to those, we went to Dia de los Muertos, and that was a fabulous service. All these things that you can do right now, but so important for us to have a place where we can come and be in community, with people we know. And, yes, when we're on the beach and, it's 10 o'clock in Colorado, sometimes we listen in. Other times we just wait till it's convenient, then we listen in. But you know what, it's not the same as being here, but it sure is helpful. So we have done that, took Dr. Barry's foundation class, just to heckle, really. And but that was fun, and then he and I would get in I said I would sit on my hands. Well, that worked for about 5 minutes. But recently, both Tina and I decided to take Dr. Michelle's Empowering Decisions class, and that's been awesome. So, keeping in the flow, whether you're teaching or taking, you can never stop learning as far as I can tell. And it's just important to be in the flow. And I think the other piece that I would say is having, not working regularly. I had to realize that I am in rewirement, not so much retirement, because I started writing down the things I've been doing. And I went, okay, so I just changed where I'm doing them. That's what it is. Because Dr. Roger called and said, so what do you think about being the interim minister in Austin, Texas? You probably forgot. No, he didn't. But right in the middle of the pandemic, and I said yes, because it was Dr. Roger. You don't say no to Dr. Roger. That's why he always got people to come back on the board of trustees. But it was such a great experience. But it kept me in the flow. But the thing I was about to say is you have so much more time for just being still. And, sometimes for me, I'm in the midst of some other things I love, and I just put my feet up and lean back in my chair, and 45 minutes later, it's like, okay, what was I doing again? And I love that. I didn't have nearly the time for that while I was still actively working. So being able to be still taking classes and, teaching a few here and there, it's helped a lot. How about you, Roger? What do you want to add?
Well, I echo what you guys just have shared. And just to recount my journey in 2017, I began to get troubling realizations in meditation. When you get still and you give the Spirit a chance to get a word in edgewise, sometimes stuff comes up you're not prepared for. And that was when something in me was saying, you're coming to an end of this thing you've been doing. And I thought, wow, I'm in burnout. I must be on the edge of burnout if I'm getting that. But it just didn't stop. And, of course, I talked to my beloved, who's my best support system. And we just kept embracing it. And I stumbled onto a book that's also on your reading list at the bottom there, from a wonderful guy named Father Richard Rohr. And I've been down to Albuquerque 2 times to go to some week-long conferences of his. And I'm so impressed with him. I don't know how it is he hasn't been excommunicated by now. But I think his order somewhat insulates him. But he's entirely what we're about, and very advanced. He's the kind of Christianity that was really meant to be in terms of supporting the light of Jesus and that experience. At any rate, he wrote a book called Falling Upward. And when I don't even remember how I got that book. But it, when you're ready, it gets to you. The stuff gets to you somehow. It does. And I read that, and it was a very emotional experience because he talked about the first half of life, which is where we assemble the trappings that we're programmed to assemble. We get our education or our training or whatever. We choose a path of career, maybe modify it a little bit. We create a family, maybe, if we're called to that. We amass resources, homes, trappings. We maybe get some accolades along the way, and we do what we're going to do. And that's the first half of life. And what he was basically saying in this book is that's not all there is to life. That there's a time where, if allowed, the soul will call you out of the familiar and into unknown territory. It'll call you to wander, not meaninglessly, but wander in a way that allows you to discover something deeper. And he recounted the story of Oedipus. You remember that one?
I love this one.
Yeah. Who, he went off to fight the Trojan War. It took him 10 years to get there, and then they fought it for 10, and then it took him 10 years and all sorts of interesting things to get back, all with the notion that he was going to become the king. And when he got back after that 30-year jaunt, the muse told him, no, you're not done. Before you can be king, you need to take an oar from your ship, and you need to walk inland as long as it takes to find somebody who doesn't know what an oar is, but they think it's just something from the harvesting floor. And you have to also walk far enough that nobody knows who you are. And when you've done that, then you're to plant that oar in the ground, plant a garden, make sacrifices, and then you can come back. And you'll be ready to be king. And what that was a metaphor for, Richard explained, was Father Richard, that we've got to wander beyond the known, and not just what other people know of us, but beyond what we have come to define ourselves as. And it doesn't mean we toss away all the quality and the good stuff in our life. It's just that we're really open. It's like we empty so that we can be filled again. And that really hit me, and led me to crafting the retirement process that I did and stepping into that. And what I was cautioned to do, and I would offer this if you're on the precipice of that, is don't be too quick to fill up your life when you make that step. That we need a transition period. That's a part of our spiritual development where we get used to not thinking of ourselves in the same way. We get out of our routines. We begin to feel like the snake that's shedding a skin and preparing for another chapter. And lots of stillness. That's why I think that this spiritual development is such an important thing. Lots of stillness so that at some point, some authentic realization can come forth about what this next chapter is best to be about, what really serves you. And I know that that's not easy to do because it's hard enough just to stop doing what you're doing, if you liked what you're doing. I've had a few conversations even today with somebody who said, oh, retirement was easy. I hated my job and I feel free. But in many cases, even so, to make that much change in one's life can be really challenging. And so if you can just hang out in the unknown a while, hang out in your uncertainties about what you're to do or what you're to be or what matters. There are a few things we're going to stress that are important to do while you're doing that. It's not like you just go into hibernation, because that can be devastating and dangerous. But you don't just try to fill the void meaninglessly, because you may cloud what wants to come through when you step into that kind of a space. And I did that for about a year. And it wasn't easy. It was at times joyful. I really enjoyed not getting up at 4 a.m. on Sundays. That didn't hurt too bad. And the pressure of the parade of Sundays was nice to let go of, although I loved what I did. And but it opened up time to grieve the past. Sometimes you gotta own that was a great run, and damn, it's over. Well, all right. And you kind of grieve that a little bit, and that's okay. Give yourself the space to do that. And but then after a while, you get kind of normalized, and you do the things that they've talked about, the quieting time just reflecting and being. not having to pressure anything into place. And then at some point, you will experience what I probably did, what I know I did, and that is an inspiration came. And about the end, right in the middle of COVID, I thought, hey, I'm an ordained minister. You don't retire from the ministry, you retire from a certain form of it. But you're always a minister, so how can I still serve? And that's when I created my own little charitable corporation and started doing webinars and personal consulting and stuff, because that felt right. And that felt like, so I'd always wanted to work with smaller groups of people, but this place is pretty massive, and we throw a class and they're large, and that's good. And yet I enjoyed, like at the meditation retreat and other things, more intimate settings. And I really enjoyed that, and I've been thriving at that. So sometimes the spiritual journey really does ask us to open and let something authentic guide us into the next stage. Who else wants to chime in?
Well, the next area you've kind of started dipping into it, and that's, spiritual service. Because Roger's so right, as we're all ordained ministers, and it's always percolating. And there is something within you that wants to show up and give and be of service. So that was the part, for me, I realized that, I've retired twice, actually. This is my second one. And the first one is I retired from being an architect. And I didn't know at the time that I actually wasn't going to be retiring just formally as an architect, until Roger and I and the other ministers on the team and the congregation started talking about building something like this. So, even though I thought I had retired from architecture, I actually am still doing some of that, even now, in retirement. So, there's a lot of ways to be of service, and what I realized is, I have more rewired than retired. Because, as I mentioned, I did a couple of months stint as a interim minister, and it was very fun to see how much I had to give to that Unity Church in Austin, Texas, and help them, get back on their feet even for the 2 months I was there. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. But other things, I've noticed is, speaking occasionally, 3-4 times a year, it's enjoyable. And I have found I still have things to share. And I've gotten to know other spiritual communities, so that's been a lot of fun. And, just the occasional officiating of a memorial or a wedding, like my grandniece's wedding last year. Now I guess it'd be 22 now. And then we went to visit in the fall last year, and they had their first baby. And you're just still part of the continuum of life as a minister. And it's always an honor to do a memorial. And of course, mentoring ministers. Ministers decide that they want to learn a little bit about, how it worked out for you. And so I have a mentor minister form I got to read tomorrow. So, some of that continues, but I enjoy it. It's fun. It isn't like retiring, as Roger said, from something you didn't love. I loved architecture, I loved ministry, and now I love rewirement. Barry.
Yeah, well, I think the opportunity to semi-retire is just such a great thing. I found, when I let go of this place officially last July, as soon as September came around, I was doing more parenting workshops in schools than I'd ever done before. I was just getting more calls to do that. It just gave me the opportunity to really lean into that and to meet with a lot of different parents, because parenting is tougher now than it's ever been, because there's so much input coming at kids, and it's a very stressful and difficult gig. And so it gave me the opportunity to kind of step into more of that and more freedom to do that kind of work. And still being able to come back here once in a while. I got to sing last Sunday, and nobody got up and left, which I felt really good about. But just having the opportunity, just the joy to step into things that I like to do, and there's fewer things that I have to do. And, I appreciated what Dr. Rogers was talking about this morning about doubt, because I think that's something that we face when we retire from something, because we are identified with it. We do in a way feel that that's who we are, is what we do. And so I think when we step into this different phase, it gives us an opportunity to open up to a deeper aspect of ourselves, and to explore it, and to really face our doubts about that, and to see how we're going to serve now in the world. One of the things that's on our sheet here is about spiritual service, and I think one of the things that is important to us is we want to still be relevant. We still want to feel like we're serving in the world, that we're doing something that's important. And so I think that that's something that we lean into and try to relax into the thing, like, how do I want to serve, rather than having the urgency that I have to, is to let that percolate in us, and to find that place to do it. And it's been such a treat for me to spend more time in schools, and to get to be around teachers, and to do workshops with teachers, and to just be a part of that thing now, because it's really up. It's really up. Education is really up. So it's been a great opportunity for me to step into that, and then today to see how our middle school and high school thing is transforming, and just to see how I can really experience the joy of that, and it gives me an opportunity to really let it go, because I know it's in good hands, and I feel like, okay, that was work well done, and I'm glad that it's going forward, and there's good people doing it now. And I think that's one of the things that rewirement is about too. There's a grieving period of letting things go, but there's also a resolution to, I've got more things to do, and I can really bring my joy to it. So thank you about introducing doubt this morning. I think we were all looking for more things to doubt. And you
There's really no shortage.
There's no shortage of things to doubt. But I think, one of the things that I wrote over my desk at home is stay curious. Stay curious.
Love it.
I really want to do that, to just stay curious, because there's a lot of good things going on in the world. We have a tendency to place our focus in the spotlight on all the bad and all the stressful, but there's a lot of good stuff, and I want to stay curious about that.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's a great quote. Thank you. And you did a mighty work in this youth ministry. You did a mighty work for many years. And God bless Raz. I asked him to join the team, and I only a little bit thought it'd be nice to have an architect. But I knew he was a great guy, and he's shepherded countless projects around here, including this mammoth one, herding other architects around. I think another thing that as you're in these waters of figuring out who I am and what's my life about, I think one of the things, the next item on here, is also your relationships. And that's one thing that can really, really be important, is to not fall into isolation. By the way, I wanted to pause and ask, how many are retired as we speak? And how many, thank you, how many are contemplating that or on the verge? Okay. How many thought this was a potluck?
That's what I thought. I can tell those people back there are thinking, man, I didn't know we were talking about retirement.
At least the smartest part.
So to stay connected, or to increase or enrich your connections, because I've heard that too. I feel blessed with a phenomenal family, the best wife ever, and so many friends that it kind of came naturally. But my heart hurts when I hear of folks who didn't have that base of relationship, and they went into retirement and they felt isolated and alone and cut off. And it's important, I think, while you're in that creative open state, keep connected with people somehow. I mean, maybe it's resurrecting or re-enchanting other relationships. that you've had, or putting yourself in arenas where you can strike up new friendships. But that human contact and feeling connected and a part of things is absolutely essential. And I know that it gives you many more opportunities with family or with people you care about, just in terms of possibly having more free time. But it's also an opportunity to ask the question, well, okay, what's my new circle of friends now that I'm in a new chapter? Not that I'm ejecting or tossing on the garbage pile my old friendships, but what's the new energies that I want to explore? But to be really intentional about it, very important.
You sound complete.
I was.
I was waiting for the and so it is. I couldn't agree more. It's probably one of the key components of what I would call a happy rewirement is friendships, family, new people. And one of the things that Tina and I have had the opportunity to do in our retirement is we bought an RV right at the beginning. So we've traveled quite a bit. And we post, on Facebook just because. It's like, wow, a minister on the beach, listening to Mile High service online. All those possibilities. But what we discovered in our travels, whether it's Arizona or Texas or Florida, where it's warmer this time of year, is we've run into a lot of mile highers who are doing some of the same things, and couples that have moved to other places, and it's been great to meet them for lunch or have dinner or go to the beach or whatever it is. And so cultivating friendships that we established here and have taken on into our rewirement. And I do read stories. I was always curious about what other people are doing and what are some of the pitfalls and the drawbacks and suggestions. And I think it's so important if you do move out of your area, wherever that is, and you're moving into a new one. This is why those 55 plus retirement communities are so desirable, is it makes it easier to make new friends. The day-to-day friends at whatever places. And we've done that even without moving. We'll spend a month or 2 months. We have a place in Casa Grande, Arizona. It's about an hour south of Phoenix. And we love that place because it's an RV resort with a golf course right down the middle of it. So we're golfers, we love that, but it's just another way to meet people, whether it's golfing, hiking, biking, scuba diving, whatever it might be, where you have an opportunity to meet people. I think that's so important, and truthfully, it's besides hearing an inspiring message from our new lead ministers, or whatever minister is speaking that day, it's just so refreshing and inspiring, but we also get to meet and re-meet everybody and have conversations. I just love that. The other thing is family. We had our oldest grandson over for a sleepover last night, and we're not totally exhausted. Our grandson, Braden, said to me last night, he said, "This is the best day of my life." And I went, wow, 8 years old, he's already had one of those. But, grandparents, I think we went to have cheese curds at Culver's, we had a pizza and a hot tub, all those kind of things.
Nutritional
meals, always. But we also, because we have so much more time, every Saturday we're going to basketball games or soccer games or all those kind of things. It's just so great and so important. Going camping with family. We've already got a multi-family camping trip scheduled. Or we've gone to Disney World with our grandkids, which was his other favorite day in his life. So, you know, I just can't stress how important those are to keep friendships, the ones that you've had, deepened. And I get to go to lunch with these guys every now and then, and that's always a hoot. They're just as funny, by the way, not on the pulpit. But we also had a sleepover with some friends of ours we'd known for 42 years. When have you heard of an adult sleepover? We had a blast. You know, went out to dinner, they stayed overnight instead of driving home, and went home the next day. So, you know, things like that are just so key and important to reach out and, you know, have game nights, do stuff like that where you can just laugh over meaningless stuff. It doesn't have to be deep and meaningful. Actually, some of the best laughs I've ever had. Is Dr. Patty in the room? I don't see her. It was a trip we ministers were on. I'm sure we've shared this from the pulpit before.
I don't know.
Especially now that I'm working a new set of teeth in, so I actually use some of this stuff. But Patty, we were, it was me and Roger and Lloyd and Patty and Dr. Marjorie. We were headed to Miami for a convention, but somehow snow got in the way and we ended up having to drive from Orlando to Miami. So we rented a van, but Patty had, you know, our luggage went to Miami, but we didn't. And we had to stop, and she needed some toothpaste. So she came out from the Quick Way store, and she says, I got my Fix-It-In. And we all kind of paused. Most of us didn't know what that was. I do now. But we had a good laugh. So I was hoping
But she didn't know what it was until we instructed her.
She didn't know until we had paused and all started laughing. And she realized she didn't buy toothpaste. She bought denture cream. Which I now know what that is. And of course, my wife Tina is a godsend. This year, we will be married 39 years. Yeah.
Nice.
It's 40 years together. We've been talking about that a little bit. I think we were both about 18 or something. But, you know, my first years of retirement were health challenged. And, you know, Tina and our sons, Tyler and Zach, and then my God Squad. If it wasn't for the ministers of this church and all the practitioners, that first year wouldn't have gone as well, and I may not be sitting here. As a matter of fact, when that all first happened, I was right over there in a wheelchair at Christmas Eve. I'm not in a wheelchair now. So that's what I meant earlier about having this teaching in your back pocket. Mm-hmm. Talk about doubts and fears. The good news, I didn't have a lot of fear, had a lot of pain, didn't have a lot of fear, because I had this teaching, and I had these ministers and this God Squad and all the practitioners at Mile High. So when they told me I had bone marrow cancer, I went, huh. That is my exact words. Huh. And I said, so what do I got to do? And they told me, and I said, okay, well, I'll think about all that, but I'm going to put that one into prayer, and we'll go from there. And I'll decide if I want to do all the things you think I should be doing. But, you know, now almost, it'll be 6 years ago, I'm totally cancer-free. And it's really because of my friends and family, more so than the doctors and nurses. I'm really delighted that they figured out how to deal with this particular cancer. but they're doing amazing work. I think in our lifetimes, and I'm aware that there's a lot of gray hair in the room when I said that, they're coming up with stuff now for curing the different kinds of cancer. It's awesome. You just gotta hang in there. You gotta live long enough for them to figure it all out and come to a church like this and have great ministerial colleagues and friends and practitioners, and you can get through anything. I'm convinced.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
that's
you
what
know,
I'd say.
if you feel like you don't have enough connections and this is speaking to you, then I'd say hang out here and get involved.
Yeah.
And you'll meet some of the best people around, and then you can take it from there. So you don't have to go it alone by any means.
Yeah, I agree with that too. This is a great place to meet people. And I like the thing about relationships. You know, I'm lucky too that Stephanie and I have been together. We've been married for 45 years. It was an arranged marriage. We were only 6 at the time. But it's been great because we can really plan on doing stuff together, and we really planned for our rewirement thing. You know, we were living in a certain house, and we had a rental house in front of ours, so it was kind of falling down that we rented for years, and we were going to just knock that down and put another rental up there, kind of an inexpensive thing. And this guy Raz comes over for dinner one night, just as we were getting ready to do that, and he said, you know, if this was me, what I would do is I would build my retirement home right down there and sell this house that you're in. Changed our entire mental equivalent. You know, that this place is so focused on creating things in mind and then bringing them in, and he's the master of it. And it just kind of changed our whole trajectory, and it's gone so well. And it's great to have relationships in your life where you can plan with people and make things happen. And, you know, Reyes was talking about his grandkids, and I have a couple of granddaughters now, and it's been such a cool thing for me to watch them growing up, and I get to do these little concerts for them whenever I go up to their house and I bring my guitar. They're a great audience, and I've written songs for both of them, and my older granddaughter will play my song, play Ivy's song, and so do that. And then I went and visited their school because they both go to a little preschool. The next day I'm down there doing a concert for all these little preschool kids, you know, and it's just like, and I was thinking as I sat down and all these kids around, none of these kids know me, and I thought, what could be better than this? You know, what could be better than this? So I think our connections with our family and with our extended family are so important, and I echo what Roger said, is that right here is a great place to meet people. You know, you're already qualified to be an usher or a greeter here. There doesn't take a lot of training, and it's a great way to meet people and to feel that you're in service, and it keeps you coming and being a part of this community. So I highly recommend it. And I also highly recommend working with youth in our youth and family ministry. That's kind of what really drew me into this community, and how I really felt that sense of connection. I loved the message, and I loved coming every Sunday. But man, when I started volunteering with youth, the whole trajectory of my life changed, and so I'm so thankful for that. So there are opportunities that still abound to be a part of spiritual service, and I think it gives our life meaning.
Indeed. And you know, this interesting thing we're skirting around and talking about is also, and I think one of you alluded to this, a great time to experiment and to try on new stuff and to, you know, get out of the old clutches of habit and explore, try stuff. And then sometimes I think that one has to challenge oneself to do that. Okay, this week I'm getting out of this rut. We're going to do something different. Eric and I work on that. We seek intentionally to try to do some different things in a week, at least one different thing, whether it's scouting out a part of town we don't even know and walking around like we're foreigners, or stopping in at little pubs, or just exploring whatever there is. It's out there, and we're living in a great place. So, and also just to explore, maybe there's interests that have been lurking deep within you that haven't had a chance to come up for air. It's a great time to that, and to keep the adventure somehow sparked in our life. Because around here, what we know is we want to be fully alive. We want to die alive and healthy. You know what I mean? Awake, alive, and healthy, and finally, the body's ready to let go. All right. But we want to go for it while we can. And I know you do that in your travels, and this guy's amazing. One time, I asked Raz, I said, Erica and I would like to go explore the Canyonlands and Arches and some of those places we still haven't gotten to yet, but we will. And about 2 weeks later, Raz presented me this folder, and it had a spreadsheet in it of all that we were to do day by day, including which hotel we were to stay at and make excursions from, special places we absolutely must explore, and the exact amount of miles in between each thing, and what to do on this day, perfectly timed to be able to do the next thing and the next thing over a 6 or 7 day period. Now, I still have that, I want you to know. And but that's what I love about Raz. If you've ever gone to his home, in his office, he has this array of notebooks. And I went there maybe a year, or last summer or the summer before, and I said, Raz, you're retired. Well, why are you keeping all these notebooks? He said, oh, no. That's a notebook for every trip we've got coming up. And they go out some like 8 years. And he creates a notebook for... See, this is why I needed him on board here, because I don't think like that. That's the amazing thing you do. But I love your spirit of adventure. I love that.
Dr. Marjorie was so good at those notebooks. Barry and I talked about that. When we showed up, that's the first thing you do, is you have a meeting with Dr. Marjorie, and she would give you 3-4 notebooks. So it carried over.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I do love adventure. And by the way, we're going to Canyonlands in about a month.
Well, you better follow that sheet.
Yeah, we don't.
One time, we discovered at a certain phase of our evolution that we could actually go on ministerial planning retreats less expensively than by going on a cruise rather than going to a convention hotel. And Raz added up the dollars and said, we can do that, and we can take the spouses along, and they can play, and they need to be acknowledged and rewarded for what they put up with us, and the indirect but very powerful service they bring to this ministry. And so I said, well, yeah, let's do that. And we told the staff about it, and we also gave up some of the other perks we had in our contracts, like the convocation of ministers that the movement did, just so that the budget worked out well. We explained that all to staff, and they were supportive, and so we went. And then at one point, though, Raz came into one of our meetings, and he had a spreadsheet for what he was going to wear each day. And I thought, that's just another life for me. But I so honor that. I mean, you think it through, and you didn't overpack like I usually do. That's amazing.
We still do that. Especially on cruises, because you just can't carry that much stuff, let alone going to Europe, that kind of thing.
But with no matter what your means or what your interests, there's ways to just stretch, challenge yourself. That's a part of the privilege you've given yourself for working hard and getting to this space. And let's just defy that cultural thing of retirement. You just lay around until you can't get up anymore, And that's not what we want to be about. No way.
Not for me.
I know that.
Yeah. One of the things, the staff, when Roger and I were active ministers here, they'd always get nervous when Roger and I would get in the same room. For those of you who have no idea about emergenetics, we both have a lot of yellow. What that is creative energy. So, this building kind of came in because of that sort of creative energy. But I tell you what, that is what I think in rewirement still needs to be cultivated and honored and, ride the wave. Don't do every little idea that comes in your head. That could get expensive. But what I've noticed is, I do love travel planning. That's one of the ways I keep my creative juices flowing. I had 2 careers that were very creative, architect and minister. Because we make all that stuff up that we share on a Sunday morning, I mean, it's coming from years of experience and study and all that, and I get that. But, what are you going to do in rewirement? So I think that's why we continue to do what we do. And like going to Barry's, because he said he had a project he wanted to talk to me about. But, my yellow brain, the creative part went, okay, why are you doing another rental? And then we ended up building a really nice house with solar and in-floor heating and a great place to live and a shower you can go into when you're 100 years old. That kind of stuff. That's important, by the way. The thing I'm most impressed about, I haven't gone outside my safety zone nearly as much as my wife, Tina. She, in rewirement, has created an amazing artistic avenue that is really serving and supporting and nurturing her. So much so that she just sold, a couple dozen pieces of mosaic art to a gift shop in Carbondale, Colorado. And she belongs to this Facebook mosaic group out of Australia, which is amazing. I think tomorrow, aren't you going to a mosaic, another person? So she's establishing new friendships, following a creativity, and she's really getting good.
Australia, that's going to be another notebook.
It will be. It's one of those 8-year plans. Yeah, we are going to Australia. But she just does this stuff, and the only thing I have to be careful about is not to sit in any one place, in one position too long. I'm afraid she'll mosaic the top of my head. I know we'll need to move when everything's covered. But she has done such amazing work, and it's beautiful, Tina. Good job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you've spoken already about, hopping onto the health wagon and that even though we don't have a new career type job, as it says younger, and next year you've got a new job, and that's to move your body every day.
Definitely that, and one of the things, I just wrote an article for one of our newsletters here about planting a victory garden. And, I've gardened for a long time, and it's kind of like an ever new thing every spring. So how many gardeners we got in this room here? I bet there's a bunch of you. Bless your hearts. So I'm just recommending that we grow victory gardens this spring and start growing more of our own food, because it's really a healthy thing to do. And, I just took one of those family journeys with my son Gabe, and we went to Monticello to visit Thomas Jefferson's house. And he was a big gardener, and he had a 1,000-foot garden at Monticello, and just brought so many different kinds of seeds that were sent to him from Europe. And so when I went there, Stephanie said, "You're going to have a good time in the gift shop where the seeds are." And man, I went over there and just came home with so many seeds that I'm just anxious to plant and stuff for her to plant different kind of flowers and stuff. And it's just such an incredible thing to work on for our health and to get our hands into the dirt. And there's so many benefits of it. And one of the things that we've always looked towards is Thomas Jefferson, when he retired and went back to Monticello, he really turned away from public life and got into raising food. And he said, I'm an old man, but I'm a young gardener. And I've always hung on to that, especially lately. And I just would recommend that if you haven't done that before, there's always a place to plant something, always a place. And one of the things that's great about Denver is there are a lot of community gardens where you can join with other people and plant things. So you just have a space that you can go to and work. And there's a place called Denver Urban Gardens that has those and will get you connected. So I think this spring, Victory Gardens, are you with me? Yeah. Victory Garden? Yeah, let's do it.
That's so great, Barry. You know, that's one area me and Tina need to lean into your expertise, because this past year, we thought we had done the prep, you know, for the garden, 18 inches of good soil, all that kind of stuff. But we managed to grow some pygmy sunflowers. They ended up being about that tall.
Well, that's good. What's wrong with that?
There's no problem, I guess. Those are perfect. Okay, good. I don't know why. I always had this image they'd be like 6 feet tall, but they weren't even close. And the carrots would be really good.
Bite-sized. That's perfect.
Mini carrots, yes. Well, while I have the mic, I've already talked about recovery from a health challenge. And one of the things I'm enjoying now, you know, my femur broke. That's how they found the cancer. It just spontaneously fractured. You don't want that, by the way. But what's been great is that health and well-being piece. That's when we got our e-bikes, is because, you know, getting the full range of motion back in my femur, my legs, and being able to move again. But now I'm swimming a quarter mile with Tina 3 times a week. And, you know, I don't know why I said this out loud, and now I'm going to do it in front of a room of people. I'm thinking about doing a biathlon again. I used to do triathlons, and I thought, you know what? Nothing like having a fitness goal to keep you doing what you need to do to stay younger next year. So who knows? We'll see. It's all talk right now. But they do have, they're not triathlons because it's only 2 sports. But I need to find one that has a quarter mile swim and you can do the bike on an e-bike. That's the kind of, you know, sports challenge I want to do. But you know, we've been given such a blessing, and you know, as you get older, what's great, if you don't know this already, which I'm sure a lot of you do, get your silver sneakers, because you can go to any gym in the country. So I don't pay a dime, and I go to this great rec center in Parker, and we can do this together all the time. Health is so important. It's probably the biggest thing for a happy rewirement, is maintaining your health.
And that blends over into the other topic of medical challenges and insurance, and you know, just to be prepared as best one can, and to let the professionals of various kinds, naturopathic as well as Western, guide us, and listen to that rather than flying blind. It's a good way to go.
Yeah, you know, I've shared so much about the health challenge, but I tell you, the blessing of having insurance, and you got to have it before something happens. And, you know, that stem cell transplant, that is why I'm still here today, was $1.2 million. That's not something you want to take out of your retirement funds. You know, so fortunately that happened before we had fully disengaged from Tina's Verizon health insurance. So we only paid $5,000. But health insurance is so important. The maintenance chemo would have been $13,000 a month. I ordered some the other day. I think it was $7.33. So insurance. It's just so much of a blessing. And of course, if you retire before you're 65, when you can get Medicare, when you or your spouse turn 65, it's like getting a raise. Because now you don't have to pay those big numbers. Medicare covers so many things. It's been such a blessing for me on that medical path. But I think it's more than that. I remember being in the cancer ward or floor or whatever. But I remember talking to nurses, and they said they could always tell who was going to make it. Attitude. Attitude, and getting the vitamins you need from your naturopath and following what they think is the best course is so important. I learned that from my dad. My dad lived to be 96. He outlived 3 of his doctors. And but what he would always say is, okay, what do I got to do? So that was the first words out of my mouth when I found out this was a challenge I had to deal with. What do you want me to do? And then I'll decide which of those things I want to do. And it's nice to have that choice. It's so important, but attitude, number one.
Amen. Well, maybe we ought to take some questions at this point. We promised we'd...
No, not from you.
But we've got some mic runners somewhere, and let's let them get up to speed here.
We do. Mark Pino.
Oh, our Director of Development for the Foundation.
Right here. Let's hear from Martino. This young lady right here's got a question. Hope this isn't a math question. We're not.
Yeah, we don't do math.
Wow, this has just been incredible.
It's on.
It's all right, just hold it.
You're talking about insurance. So one thing I have failed to do is get disability insurance. I would like to know, of the 3 of you, do you all have disability insurance?
Well, we have long-term care insurance that I believe includes that, but I don't know about that specific name of it.
No.
No. And that's it for questions. We want to thank you all for.
Well, Barry, I was going to pay you a compliment, but now.
Save that.
Okay, so 2 things. One, I really liked what you had to say about not getting in shape, but staying in shape. Because I think that in the mental vision of this is that you're never going to get into the shape you were when you were 20 or 25. And when I see people, I've started working out again, but walking. When I see people trying to get to a level that their bodies are not there, but and they trick themselves sometimes. So I really, it's like a failure and then they give up. So I really like that very, very much. So thank you for that. And the other thing was, I went back for my second master's, and I'm in my 60s, and I can't tell you how many people told me, you're too old, what are you going to do? I'm doing global community engagement at the University of Denver.
That's
because
great.
when I come out of the corporate world, I want to be able to serve communities. And it has been, I'm still doing, and still going through and taking my classes, but all I've heard was, you need to slow down, you need to do this, why are you doing that? You need to enjoy yourself, and I enjoy myself serving and helping.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important what you said about exploring and staying with that curiosity and keep going, because I think people over, as we age, we have something to give back to the community, even if people are telling you, the general view is no. And so I really appreciate today, because we still have stuff to offer, and we still contributions and to help with human evolution, spirituality. So thank you for this.
Well, Carly, you also bring up a great thing about the power of education. Keep learning at this stage. And there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, you're in Mecca for spiritual learning right here. So many opportunities here at Mile High. And then a lot of universities offer programs for continuing education for the lifelong learners in us. And what's it called? Ollie?
Yeah, I got involved
and
with that during
things like
COVID,
that.
teaching
Yeah.
for Ollie, the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. and they just have so many different programs in different places around town. But I got to teach my workshop, Baseball is a Road to God, which most of you have taken. But that was really good. I got to meet a lot of people, and Stephanie came with me, and it was just a hoot. So I really appreciate your thing about learning. I'm learning now how to play the piano. I've been playing the guitar for years, and it's brutal and humbling, and yet I still like doing it. I still like the learning process of it, and I would highly recommend that too, to find something that you want to learn about, some kind of hobby or some kind of learning opportunity, and dig into it. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yes, and just one thing to that. Whenever anybody tells you, why are you doing that? Didn't you learn enough? Or I can't, it's about what I have learned, it's their thinking about that they wouldn't do it, but it doesn't mean it's my thinking about what I need to do.
Yeah,
And I've gotten
that's
teased so
right.
much for being a lifelong learner. You can tease me all you want, I'll continue to learn.
That's good. That's good. Let's see. There's there's one back here, and then I think. Were you scratching or raising your hand? You were. Okay. And then down here.
Dr. Berry, I like what you said about going into the classroom and playing music for the kids. I just have always loved reading picture books to children, and I'm a retired teacher, and my last part of my career was preschool. So on a whim, I just connected with my granddaughter's preschool teacher, and I said, if you ever have, a break in your schedule and you'd like me to come read to your class, I will be happy to do that. And then I got a note from her, and she said, sure, how about the third Tuesday, you can come in my class next door, and the class across the hall, and you can come, once a month, and so I just love doing that. And I got to be silly. I didn't have the sense of, I'm the teacher, I have to get through this. No, I'm a guest, I could be silly, and I could ad-lib and have fun. So, thanks.
Love it. Say right down here in front, Mark. By the way, if you have questions about our Mile High Church Foundation, Mark Pino here is the Director of Development for Mile High and a fountain of inspiration.
So I retired the end of December of 2020, and I'd always had all these plans, I was a planner. And so I had my retirement worked out, what I was going to do, and had my notebooks. And then 3 months later, the world shut down, and I couldn't do any of those things. And then, like one of the places I was going to support ended up closing altogether. But I found that it was good for me to go through that in a lot of ways, because I had a job with a lot of deadlines and things to accomplish and goals throughout the course of my life, and now I was faced with this more open-ended existence of, and it was good for me to learn how to sit still. It was good for me to be able to be all right, not having to do anything, not needing to do anything, because that's what I found it was, I would feel a little bit guilty or ashamed of not having something to accomplish, to not having a paycheck coming in. All of those things that define me as being successful or productive, contributing to society were gone, And so that was a really good time for me to say, hey, I need to have that spirituality in my back pocket, because that's really what got me through it. Because it was a perfect time for that. It was a perfect time to get deeper into my meditation practice. It was a perfect time to have some moments to contemplate good literature. And it was the first time Cindy and I had been around all day together for a long time, and we had to learn how to do that. It didn't come naturally because
That's a different workshop.
it was
right
out.
there.
It And so, but I think, you know, it's real easy to plan all of this stuff that you're going to continue to doing, but I'm not sure that that's, I was glad that something got in the way of that.
But you know, that's some of this rewiring you just hit on so beautifully, and that is all the things that come up. I'm not enough if I'm not bringing in a paycheck, or who am I with when I'm just sitting around, or I haven't churned out my to-do list. You know, there's so much rewiring so we can flow with where our life wants to go. And somehow or another, maybe COVID supported you in that. I know it was extraordinarily difficult for a lot of folks, but it sounds like you made good use of it.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. The pandemic hit right as we were returning in our RV from Florida. So our son texted us and said, well, if you see any toilet paper or hand sanitizer on your way home, pick it up. With no other explanation. I went, what? And because we were totally out of that loop. I mean, we just weren't watching news. And I still don't get the tie between COVID and toilet paper, but that's a whole nother conversation. But what I wanted to mention, I think you just did, is Tina and I mean, we have a 33-foot RV, but it's a little less than 10 feet wide, so there's 300 square feet. So if that wasn't a test as to whether we could be empty nesters, because we would spend 4 months together in our RV, not our nice house where you can go to your office, but here we are together. But we made it, we loved it, and we want to do more of it. So, you know, it is kind of funny. You just start doing your meditations on the beach, or you linger longer wherever you are. It's like, I don't need to watch anything. I'm just going to sit here and just be still. One of my favorite meditations is still watering the grass. There's just something about it. Even with an automatic sprinkler, I can go out there and watch the grass get watered instead of doing the watering. So anyway, I loved what you mentioned because it is such a test.
There's another hand down here, but somebody in the back.
I would like to offer something as a resource that goes along with what you have mentioned and alluded to. I run into lots of people who have played musical instruments in the past, and very often they say, oh, I wish I had never given it up. And I co-direct a community band, and there are community bands and orchestras all over. And it's never too late to do that. I think especially if you learned an instrument when you were younger. And in the community bands that I direct, we have people from early 20s to 95. And it is an automatic community and a network of friendship. And I think that there's just a powerful life force in performing music more than just listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
So I wanted to just make a quick comment, piggyback onto what Carla said earlier. I was recently made aware of a term called ageism. It's as bad as sexism or racism or any of those kinds of things. And as my hair turned white and, you know, I retired, I found that more and more, that people in my world wanted to put me into a box, wanted to put my friends and the people I know into a box about how I should behave and what I should do and what I know and what my abilities were. And one thing that really hit home with me is that I was doing that to myself too. I was putting myself into a box about what my capabilities were, and that's a big stretch for me, and I'm wondering if you guys have come across that in your lives as well.
I think it's all over the place, and I think we just get to be mindful about not putting ourselves in those compartments, those little stifling boxes of I can't or I never or all of those things we say, and follow the vitality of our spirit. But I think that we have to be resilient, that it's out there too. And as Carly mentioned, people's little comments and digs and things like that. But, it's got to be like water off a duck's back. If just say, oh, that's them, and go for it, and defy those false barriers.
Yeah. Stephanie always reminds me that what other people think of me is none of my business. And I think I think that it's important that we chart a path for ourselves that is centered around the things that are important to us, our own well-being and our own learning, continuing to learn. I think there's a lot of people in this room right here who are lifetime learners, who want to continue to learn, want to continue to grow. And so you can thank people for their input and then just keep rolling with what you're doing. I think that's our message.
It's like that, you're holding it back. Thank you. You just say, thank you for sharing. And then you can add to it silently after that. Thank you for sharing, you child of God. Yes. So I think right down here, this lady, raise your hand real high. There you are. There you go.
Thank you. So this is really helpful and very encouraging. I have a couple of questions related to, the lack of your identity or the identity crisis as you leave the job market, as well as your mortality that you're faced with at the same time. That we are turning gray-haired and into wrinkles and all of that. That's one question. And then the other one is, we've talked a lot about or heard a lot about, having a spouse or someone to go play with. What about people who have lived more of a nomadic life? I've traveled a lot for work and things like that, and I don't have somebody to go play with all the time, don't have a spouse, don't have children, grandchildren. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'll dive in. We have several single friends that are either already rewired or they're about to be. And what they've shared, and just what we've talked about, is that's why relationships are so important. One of our lady friends, she has another lady friend that they, when they want to do a cruise, they say, hey, you want to go to Greece? And, so finding people with similar interests that you can be with, because I do realize we're all married, we have spouses, but friends, partners. We're doing a cruise to Norway with two of Tina's sisters, and looking forward to it. But that's what they're doing. They're deciding that they're going to live together. They like to travel together, and one of them just went to Mexico and with another friend. So it's friendships, relationships. Here I know there's groups of, I don't even know what they call themselves at the moment, but I see them on Facebook, singles who are going to brunch together and doing stuff like that. I mean, it's just a cultivation. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's what I see.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to stop. And the good news, the travel planner and me, they're now developing some cruise ships with single rooms. Now, that's if you want to be by yourself. But I think a lot of people want to travel with somebody, and I know I would. And I've told Tina if I pass before she does, she'll have enough money to find herself a 25-year-old boyfriend and keep traveling. So we laugh about that. But, it's true. My dad lived 7 years beyond my mom and kept doing stuff. And, right till he passed at 96. So you might have to get more creative, I guess.
Well, but the good news of it is that you're obviously somewhat comfortable in your own skin, and you can be with yourself. So that that's not all bad. But another thing to add to what Raz shared is there are a lot of opportunities for group travel, and even here at Mile High. My beloved friend Dr. Kent here, who's sliding into this territory imminently, has for years created travel experiences here at Mile High with Mile Highers, and has one. Well, you're going to Norway and Iceland or somewhere other cold place, and that won't be the last. And so it's to find groups of affinity like that, and dive into a group like that. Right before COVID, oh my God, just before it, my prayer partner of many years, Howard Caesar, formerly minister of Unity of Houston, and I put together a travel group, ended up with 50 people. We went to Egypt, and the bonding and the interaction in that was just so special. We got back just at the beginning of COVID, just under the wire. But there are all sorts of things like that, including other spiritual teachers who create cruises, Abraham Hicks, and other kinds of groups where you go in and you already got something of an affinity there because, they're somewhat in this mindset, and it's easier to make connections and possibly friendships with that. So I'd add that to it. Mortality and identity.
Well, I think, the mortality and identity piece is something that, calls us to just examine our spirituality and what we're really feeling, what we really believe, all three of us have certainly spent a lot of time doing memorials, so we talk about it a lot and we're around it a lot. And I think, one of the things that Ernest Holmes said, it was about the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. It doesn't say how, when, or where, but I think embracing the mystery of it has been the most important thing for me, to drop into the mystery of it and to really lean into the fact that we don't know, and that's a good thing. And I just have a tremendous thing that Roger talked about, faith today. I have a faith that there's a bigger story unfolding, and we're a part of it. And surrendering to that, I think, is just really important.
And I think the key thing is perhaps to distance oneself from fixation on numbers and age. In some ways, practically, you need to pay attention to certain age-related legal things and et cetera, financial things, whatever the case. But in terms of living one's life, I feel like a 35-year-old in a 71-year-old body, and I refuse to change that. And my wife's a teenager. It's also a spiritual opportunity, and I think that's what you beautifully talked about, of also living in the moment. We can project ahead and we can wonder what if, but you know what? Life only gives us the moment. It's like I forget the writer who talked about he was at a bus stop on a sweltering hot day, humid hot day wherever they were, and he was waiting for a bus, and this elderly gentleman, probably late 80s if not early 90s, with his cane, sauntered up to the enclosure, the bus enclosure, and the guy writing the book asked him, he said, "Well, how you doing today?" And I love what the guy said. He said, "Best day yet." Best day yet. I think I want to live like that. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I want to live like that. Best day yet. We are about out of time, but you want the last word. Get the last word.
Well, sure. And then one of you guys can pray. I just want to address that mortality piece, because when you're given the cancer diagnosis thing, and you do think about that. You go, okay, well, I've had a great life. And then you start getting better and better and better. And I remember laying in bed, because I couldn't move around a lot. I was in a wheelchair, all that kind of stuff. And I listened to some Joe Dispenza. and it helped immensely. It was his morning, night meditation. And the morning one asks you to set goals for the day. But my favorite one was the evening when he said, and now I'd like you to forgive yourself for forgetting what your intentions were for the day. It always makes me smile, even though I heard it every day for 14 weeks. But in those moments, what I realize is I've had a great life. I don't know how much longer I got. I'd love to see my grandkids graduate from high school, but that has evolved. Now I want to see them get married, and I want to see my great-grandkids. This is why I plan trips. There's nothing like planting a flag as a vision and living toward it. Because now what I know is I don't know how much longer I've got, but what do I want to do in the next 5? And what do I want to do in the next 10 or 15? Right now, I'm hanging my hat on 92 and a half. And I'm just a little bit younger than this guy. Why not?
So why the half? I just am curious about the half.
You shouldn't have asked that, but
all right.
No, that's fine. It came from doing in practitioner training, you have to write your eulogy.
Oh.
And I picked a date. You have to pick the date too. So you get comfortable with life and the continuity of life. And my boys, they were pretty young when I was going through prac, and they said, "What are you doing?" And I told them. And they said, "Well, how long are you going to live?" I said, "I don't know. How long do you think I should live?" And they said, "How about 92 and a half?" So that's where that came from. And so there you go. Now you know. When do you guys want to pray?
Well, I just want to, first of all, thank you all for listening to our conversation. And I just bless you in leading the full and spirited life that you've been given.
Should I pray them out?
Yeah, pray them out, brother.
So let's just fall into our hearts here for a moment, and I give thanks for this opportunity for us to gather and talk about this chapter of life that we call rewirement. And I give thanks for the opportunities that lie before us, but most of all for the opportunities that lie within us. We are indeed spiritual beings, and we are connected with one power, the one life, the one divine intelligence. And there is indeed a life on our path, even though sometimes we have difficulty seeing it. So I bless each person here. I give thanks for your willingness, and I give thanks as we leave this place for the blessings that will rain on you in ways that you could never imagine. And so it is.
So it is. Peace and blessings, everybody. Life is good.